and it ended up being one of the most enjoyable relationships I've ever had.
In Hollywood for many years, Robert Redford was the calm heart of all the chaos. In a world that loved noise and show, he was a man of quiet strength. He was the gentleman of the new Hollywood. He never had to yell to be heard, and he didn't need scandals or news to stay popular. A lot of his peers burned out from fame, but Redford stayed golden, grounded, and respectable. He let his work speak for itself rather than letting rumors get in the way. The legendary Oscar winner has now, at age 88, decided to speak without anger, but with the honesty and weariness of a life well lived. There were quiet disagreements, creative clashes, and tense relationships behind some of his most famous movies that he's now sharing for the first time. These were the things that turned his proudest performances into personal burdens. We're not making this up. These are facts that have names. His fellow heroes were not a good fit for him. Arrangements that hurt instead of healed. You might never look at some of Hollywood's most famous classics the same way again after hearing the last name on Redford's list. Because even legends have stories that aren't told behind their calmest faces. Let us know what you think before we reveal these secrets. Do you know how old you are and where you are? Now it's Gene Hackman's turn. One-on-one the resto when giants crash. Two big names in Hollywood, Robert Redford and Gene Hackman, worked together just once. They worked together for the first and only time on the big movie Downhill Racer. The movie is known less for its drama and more for the quiet, palpable tension between its two stars. The stress behind the scenes was real and very close to home. Hackman's angry, powerful energy gave him raw power that often made everyone else weak. He did more than act, he ruled. As always, Redford was cool and collected, but Hackman's intensity wore him down. What started out as respect for each other in the first 70 seconds quickly turned into quiet space. Hackman would yell during practice, get into fights with the director, and make intense scenes into fights. "He's one of the greats," Redford said in closed doors one time. He didn't care who he hit to get there, though. During a very important scene, things finally broke. Hackman wouldn't leave his trailer because he thought the lighting was bad. He stopped shooting for almost an hour. When the director couldn't get him to change his mind, Redford quietly opened the trailer door and told Gene, "This isn't your movie. Everyone works together. Show up or step aside." Hackman showed up, but they never talked freely again after that day. Later, when Redford started producing and directing movies, he quietly made sure Hackman's name never showed up in any of his projects again, writing only "brilliant actor," "impossible human." A lot of people knew both guys as Hollywood stars, but they never met again. Years later, when asked if he felt bad that he never worked with Gene Hackman again, Redford gave a small knowing smile and said, "Some pairings only need to happen once." The story told itself in that quiet answer. James Woods, who played Robert Redford, said no. They never worked together on screen, but the gap between them kept them tense for decades. Woods, who was very smart and driven, tried out for parts in several of Redford's projects but never got one. It wasn't just a business turn down, it was a personal one too. After the fact, Redford said that Woods made him feel uncomfortable, saying that he was upsetting and that he couldn't be in the same room as Singrain. Things came to a stop in one memorable interview when Woods cut in during a courtroom scene to question Redford's views on the Vietnam War. It was quiet when Redford closed his script, got up and left the room. As time went on, Redford said that he caused chaos in places that needed it. "I didn't want to be in charge of that energy." Their fight was more than just politics, though having different ideas about the world didn't help. For Redford, Woods lacked the restraint, emotional honesty, and humility that he respected. Woods's intensity often tipped into arrogance. People in the business still talk about an audition Woods did in the late 1980s where he did a great reading, but then went on a rant about the Cold War. Redford just stood up and walked away, his face blank. After the fact, he told a coworker that I should go back to college if I wanted to argue. In appearances afterward, Woods kept making fun of Hollywood hypocrites. Redford didn't answer. He didn't need to. Always, silence said what needed to be said. But Redford didn't answer. He did not need to. There were only two simple words written in the corner of his casting notes next to James Woods' name. Never ever. That was the end for Redford. A line that would never be crossed. Robert Downey Jr., the day the light went away. It was great to see all of the president's guys, Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman, two big names in Hollywood, bring the Watergate crisis to life with their intense realism and electric chemistry. The two worked together perfectly, but there was a quiet storm that Redford would never forget. Even though they were in the same room as Woodward and Bernstein, they took very different methods. Redford was careful and organized. Every line was learned by heart, every move was practiced, and each scene was approached with calm and structure. But Hoffman liked confusion a lot. He made up new lines all the time, changed the pace of the scene, and even changed his marks to block the light. Redford thought it was chaos, not creation. His goal wasn't pride or spontaneity. He was looking for a story, but Hoffman's repeated attempts to say the same line, 6 different ways, threw off Redford's rhythm and made him lose his temper. As they took a break, he told director Alan Jay in a low voice, "Paula Kula, we're trying to tell a story, not chase 1,000 moments." There were no fights or yelling, but there was a tight, uneasy tension that lasted through all the takes. Crew members said the set was quiet but nervous, and Redford kept his cool while Hoffman changed scenes on the spot. As Redford tried to keep up with Hoffman's changing delivery, one phone call scene went on and on. Paula knew how to handle both egos well, and the movie turned out to be a classic. But when it was over, so was their work together. Redford never said anything bad about Hoffman, but whenever group shows or retrospectives were suggested, he always said no. There was no drama or news, just silence. It was a quiet agreement between two giants who could work together on screen, but never in the same way. In the end, Redford would say it all in 5 quiet words. That was enough. Don't do it again. The door shut for good after that. When art and business met, it was Tom Cruise. It looked like a great match when Robert Redford and Tom Cruise worked together on Lions for Lambs. One is a famous storyteller, and the other is a big-budget hit search for meaning. On the other hand, Redford would later say that it was one of the most stressful times of his career at work. As the director, Redford wanted to make a simple political story that was deep, human, and searching. Cruise, on the other hand, talked about it like a brand effort. Redford remembered in a quiet voice that every note was about looks. Not feeling or being honest, just a picture. Cruise came with a small army of publicists, experts, and stylists because she was both the star and the producer. Even during practices, he pushed for changes in lighting, wardrobe, and dialogue in order to make his character on screen more like him. It was disappointing for Redford, a director who used to spend days getting regular people to show a quiet, emotional beat just right. Cruise looked at stance, presence, and control while he looked for truth and openness. They didn't even agree on what the movie was about. For Cruise, it was a sign that organizations were broken. For Redford, it was a warning. Power got better in this story arc. That gap showed up in every shot. He leaned in and asked softly, "Are we acting or selling a campaign ad?" at a tense time on the set. The question set the tone for the whole shoot. There was still contact after the suction. Cruise wanted certain cuts, argued over reaction shots, and watched over the edit like it was a product launch. What started as a creative partnership turned into a disagreement over ideas. One man is looking for meaning and the other is keeping a brand safe. Redford tried to be patient because he was always a worker, but when the studio started to back Cruise, he took a quiet step back. He didn't go on the press tour, didn't say anything in public, and never worked with Cruise again. The movie didn't do well at the box office yet for Redford. The real letdown wasn't the money. It was learning that protecting the story's heart is sometimes harder than filming it. There is Fire Under the Frame by Faye Dunaway. People loved 3 Days of the Condor's smooth tension and quiet drama, but things were anything but calm behind the scenes. From the start, Redford and Faye Dunaway, who were both huge stars at the time, didn't get along. Their relationship on screen was cold and distant because there was a lot of unsaid tension between them off-screen. After her success in Chinatown, Dunaway came with a lot of confidence and a strong sense of being in charge. She had concerns about the language, the lighting, and the rewrites even after the scenes were locked. Redford respected trust and working together, and the constant interruptions were making the set's rhythm slowly break down. In private, he called her a storm in heels, which was a line that stuck with him. Even though Dunaway liked to let his crew work easily, he looked over every detail and stopped work to make what he thought were small fixes. He said in a low voice, "We're not building a watch here," after she asked for yet another take to change the rhythm of a single line. That tension showed up in their performances, which were charged and magnetic, driven as much by real anger as by the writing. During a heated argument about what drove her character, Dunaway got into a very angry argument. Before that, Redford had been quiet. Then he spoke up. "There is spying going on. F.A., not Chekhov." Zing was lying then. "So did you tell her any lies?" She screamed and left, but the next day she came back as if nothing had happened. The ice never did melt though. In the end, Redford asked for a body double for her insert shots after she finished a quiet but final split. After many years she asked him if he'd work with her again, and he gave her a weak smile that reached his eyes. "She's unforgettable," he told her. There were no reunions or second chances, just one amazing hard movie and two artists who were never meant to cross paths again. I wrote The Fire and the Symphony by Robert Duvall. It should have been a great match when Robert Redford and Robert Duvall worked together on The Natural. But from the start their artistic worlds were at odds with each other, like oil and water. Redford made movies like he was writing a symphony. He planned every note and feeling with great care. Duvall, on the other hand, came up with his own ideas and played freely, instinctively and without warning. Their disagreements went beyond how they did things. Redford liked order and calm accuracy. Duvall liked confusion and being able to act on the spot. During a key fight scene, things finally broke. Duvall filled the moment with off-script ad-libs and sarcastic improvisations that broke the rhythm. Redford needed a certain emotional beat to hit just right. Redford finally lost it because he was so angry. "It's not your show." Duvall replied right away. "It's not theirs until it's real." The two stared at each other for 15 minutes, keeping quiet but angry while the cameras kept running. Later, crew members said it was like seeing a spark turn into a blaze. Only just got the scene done, but the damage was still there. Redford later said it all in a few words. "I already know he's smart, so I don't need to say it again." It was the last time they worked together after The Natural. They didn't even go on the same press tour. Two legends, each one amazing, but their fires can't be combined without destroying the house. I like Paul Newman's The Quiet Drift. One of Hollywood's most famous pairs is still Paul Newman and Robert Redford. The Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy kidded them as tales, a story of freedom and friendship that summed up a time. But their relationship wasn't as easy as it seemed on the outside. Redford once said that Newman was lovely but guarded. He kept people at arm's length and would sometimes act innocent to avoid a fight. The two people didn't fight or have a big falling out. Instead, they slowly grew apart in silence over time. Two guys who are connected by their love of movies are slowly drifting apart, showing that even the strongest friendships on screen don't always last after the cameras stop rolling. As Paul Newman took on more producer duties for The Sting, the balance between him and Robert Redford changed in a quiet way. In the end, Redford told close friends that Newman was no longer just a co-star. He was no longer a friend. What used to feel like friendship slowly turned into polite space. Newman had a lot more power by the time filming for The Sting started. When he got to the set, he had pages of notes from studio executives and was quietly directing the project in ways that made Redford feel like he wasn't important. Later, Redford thought softly, "Paul was the face, and I was the note at the end." They didn't work together again. Redford always gave the same short answer when asked why: it wasn't the right time. People who knew the truth, though, knew it was more than that. The trust that had held them together had slowly broken down. There wasn't a big mess or a bad ending. It was a softer loss of connection that put the two legends on different paths instead of the trip fans thought they would take together. A friendship that wasn't broken by fights but by silence, leaving only memories of brilliant moments tinged with sadness. Robert Redford has been the steady hand behind some of Hollywood's most lasting stories for decades. The man was known for always being cool and charming, and he became the picture of grace in the midst of his fame. But there's another story behind that calm exterior, one of creative clashes, silent rivalries, and the pressures that come with working with giants that you can't see. Redford's career shows a side of Hollywood that not many people see. Even legends have to walk a fine line between working together and fighting. There are temper tantrums on set, weak friendships, and creative standoffs. Look behind the scenes in this video to see the secret events that shaped Robert Redford's amazing career and the classic movies we still love today. There are answers here. If you've ever thought what it takes to make movie magic happen or what happens when the biggest names in Hollywood work together, don't leave us without reading more. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you never miss another story from the heroes who built movies from the ground up. Let's work together to find the truth.